Hello and good evening. It's great seeing you one more time in the month of August. I want to believe you're keeping safe during this pandemic by doing the right things as we have been advised by the Ministry of Health in Kenya and by the World Health Organization. I'm well and I thank God for another opportunity to come to you to bring you the leadership nuggets. This is Leadership and Team Essentials, and my name is Millicent Kaunda, the Director of Leadership and Team Essentials Limited. Now, last time, that was the month of July, we were looking at how we can move our organizations from surviving to thriving. And I want to believe the nugget that we talked about, moving from being good to being great, you have at least tried putting a few things into practice. I know it cannot just work within 1 month, but I know if you have started, you are on your way there. And in a short while, just within a few, maybe 1 year or 6 months, you'll start seeing improvements day after day. Today, I felt like we need to look at how do we lead through a crisis? Because globally, we are under a crisis. And now more than ever, leaders are required to stand strong because of this crisis that we are going through. Leadership through crisis is not an easy thing, but hard times define who a leader is. Hard times will define who a leader is. And so, even though there is fear, and it is human to be afraid, especially when you're going through something that you have never gone through, or when you're passing through a path that you have never passed through. As a leader, never allow fear to engulf you. Why am I saying this? It's because you have people who are following you, and these people have confidence in you. These people are expecting you to have solutions. It's like in a home where we have a father who is a leader. The wife is expecting the husband to have solutions. So the husband is not allowed to be afraid or to be engulfed in fear. The children are looking at the father and they're expecting the father to be the hero, and therefore he has all solutions. Now, even in an organization, your followers are looking up to you and they are thinking, our leader must be having a solution even during this pandemic. And so never allow yourself to be engulfed in fear. Now, these hard times will define who you are as a leader. These hard times will shape you into a better leader. By the time we will have crossed over, by the time the pandemic will have gone, you will be a better leader. I believe you will not be the same way as when you entered into the crisis. You will be a better leader. And so as a better leader, how do you lead during times of crisis? I want to bring it to you that as a good leader, as a great leader, during a time of a crisis, you have to mind your conversations. Yes, inside of you, you are afraid because you have never passed this way before. This is a strange route. You do not know it at all. But you can never allow yourself to talk carelessly, because that which you say is taken as the whole truth by the people who are following you. If you go on announcing how your company is totally coming to its knees, sure enough, the people you are leading will believe that this company is going on its knees, it is going under, and therefore they'll start being desperate. They can't continue working as hard as they used to work. And so it's up to you to mind your conversations. You must endeavor to speak hope. You must endeavor to speak certainty to the people that you're leading. Now, I want to also remind you that disruptions, crises, hard times are normally what brings opportunities. When you look through the history of mankind or the industrial history, we realize that most of the great companies were created during crisis. Take Microsoft, for instance. It's a company that came into existence or was formed during the recession of 1970, when people did not know what to do. That is the time when companies such as Microsoft were created. And so as a leader, you must look deeper into the crisis and ask yourself, what opportunity is inside this crisis for my company? What opportunity is inside this crisis for me as a leader and the people that I'm leading? Why? Because every problem, every obstacle, every disruption always comes carrying with it an opportunity. It comes carrying with it an opportunity. You need to also ask yourself, how can I serve better in this particular organization? It could be a church organization, it could be a company that you're running, and you're looking at this pandemic and you're asking yourself, what am I going to do during this particular crisis that I am in? You might not need to change your business per se, but what you will need definitely to change is the way you are delivering, the way you are passing on the message, the way you are doing things. And during this crisis, one thing is very key. You will realize that if you are a leader in a company and you're telling people, we have always done it this way, then that is a recipe for a company that is going under. You cannot afford to tell yourself that we have always done it this way before. You have to now start exploring different ways of doing the same thing that you have been doing as an organization. If you tell yourself, we have always done it this way, then already what you're doing, your company is going under. Look, for instance, at the cinema halls we used to have many years ago. If you wanted to watch a movie, you had to go to a cinema hall. In Kenya, for instance, and I believe in many other countries, people had to go to a cinema hall to be able to watch a movie. But right now, cinema halls are no longer things that are trending. We have Netflix, for instance. People can be able to watch movies on their phones. And so if the movie, or rather the cinema halls or the owners said that they have always done it that way before, no wonder they had to be closed, because they refused to reinvent themselves. So in this crisis, you're going to tell yourself, excuse me, that you will reinvent yourself so that you can stay afloat in your business. We have another example of taxis that have been operating in the nation of Kenya in the past. The taxis that had the yellow line crossing them. They would wait somewhere in a specific location for customers to come to them. Then the customers would negotiate the prices with them and they would ferry them from point A to point B. Then Uber came into existence. Now Uber, you don't have to go and look for it where it is. It has provided contacts. You can be able to call it from wherever you are, and they'll be able to come pick you right at the place where you are. And the prices or the charges will already be given to you upfront. So even by the time you're getting into the Uber, you know how much you're going to pay for the journey that you want to take. Now, Ubers have started driving out the taxis out of business. Uber is taking charge. Taxify is taking charge. Why? Because the taxis refused to reinvent themselves. So my fellow leader, I want to tell you and to encourage you, do not refuse to reinvent. You must be willing to accept that we are in this pandemic at this particular time. It is a crisis. It is a hard time. And the second thing you're going to do, you must also accept that unless you adjust, you will not be able to make it. Remember, if you do not adjust, if you do not reinvent yourself, you will grow extinct, like those animals that we are being told used to exist in the days past. Some of us never found them. I am told there used to be an elephant-like looking like animal that was called a mammoth. I never found it. It's already extinct. It's no longer in existence. And so as a business, you too can become extinct. We will be hearing in history that there used to be a company that was called 1, 2, 3, 4. But because the people or the leaders refused to reinvent themselves, then the company is now extinct. Now, for your company to continue thriving during this crisis, it solely depends on you, because it rises and falls on leadership. Your people are really seriously following you. They want to see what you have to give them. They are waiting for you to give them the direction at such a time as this. And so harness yourself and encourage yourself and tell yourself, we can make it, even if we are going to do it differently. And start doing things differently. Right now, the supermarkets, during the time when there was a lockdown, they had to bring things onto the table differently when they brought up the aspect of online shopping. Why? Because people were told to stay at home. They could no longer go to the supermarkets for fear of interacting too much with one another. And so the supermarkets that are thriving right now are those who have introduced online shopping. You can call and mark everything that you need, and someone will come dropping it to your house. You may need food, yeah? You may need food. There's a place you will call, or an app. You will just touch the button on your phone and food will be delivered at your doorstep. Are they still doing the same business of supermarket? Yes, they are still doing it, but they have looked for different ways of doing the same thing that they used to do. So as an organization, sit back and ask yourself, how am I going to do these things differently so that my organization can remain afloat? Now, there are 3 things that followers are looking to get from their leaders. The first thing is they want certainty. Right now, when things are so uncertain, you do not know what will happen when tomorrow reaches. You don't know even how to plan for the next 3 weeks because you're not so sure of how the environment will be. For instance, the people, the owners of the schools, the private schools, for instance, and even the government that has public schools. Schools have been closed from the month of March. This is August. The children and the students, pupils and students, are staying back at home. If you are a leader who will lead through the crisis and keep your school being afloat, then you will sit back and say, how can I still reach the students? How can I still reach my pupils and continue teaching them during this time they're at home? And I've seen several schools going the technological way, where they have set Zoom classes, Google classes, Microsoft classes, and the classes are going on. The students are able to interact with the teachers online. Now, these particular people who have reinvented in this way, this kind of entrepreneurs who have invented themselves in this way, by the time the schools will open, they will still be sure to have their students back with them or their pupils back with them. But there are also certain schools that since the schools closed in the month of March, the students or the pupils have never had any other interaction with their teachers. Because they have said, teachers have thought teachers must stand in front of the classroom with a blackboard for them to teach the students. Now, they face a danger of being phased out of the industry, being phased out of the educational sector. While most of the students now are connecting with those schools that are having online learning. So for you to stay afloat, you must give certainty. The people who are following you need certainty. They want you to tell them with confidence that it is going to be well. They want you to rise above the circumstances that we are going through and tell them something that will cause them to continue working. They might work for half pay, but they are assured that their jobs are secure. They are assured that they are still reaching their customers using different means, and so they can continue serving with you. So they are looking for certainty, you, not from somebody else. Number two, they want clarity. They want clarity. Clarity in your communication. You cannot afford to be silent during a crisis, because silence will lead people to make conclusions on their own. And so a leader cannot afford to be silent. I think that's the reason why from time to time we see our president, the president of the nation of Kenya, from time to time he is giving press releases to make sure that people are getting clear about the way things are going. Likewise, you as a leader must be clear. You must communicate. As you communicate, communicate truthfully, but with wisdom. Communicate empathetically, meaning you are understanding what your followers are going through, but you are there with them. So be very, very clear. The third thing that I want to give to you, make things simple so that people will be able to see the way forward. Things very simple for people to see the way forward. In your communication, don't bring complicated issues. Make things simple for people to see the way forward. And then number four that I want to bring to you. During this time, have slowed down. Business might not be as fast as it was. Growth might not be as fast as it was. During this time, build yourself. Dedicate it to personal development. Develop yourself. Read and read again. Because as you interact with great minds, as you interact with great leaders, they will give you or challenge your mind into leading people during this crisis to the right direction. So read and develop yourself. Personal development is of utmost importance during a crisis for a leader. Number two, instill in personal development. Develop your people. Sharpen them. Sharpen them. At the end of the crisis, we are not going back to do things the way we used to do. Things are going to change totally. Things are going to change totally. For those who have been operating in churches, the pastors who are operating in churches, do not expect to still stand on the pulpit and continue preaching the gospel the way you used to preach in the olden days. You must develop yourself. Things are changing. It's no longer going to be business as usual. I hear people saying we want to go back to the way we used to be. If we will go back to the way we used to be, then the pandemic is not going to be of benefit to any one of us. But for us to maximize on it, then we must develop ourselves personally as leaders and then develop our people. So that by the time we are coming out of the pandemic, you will have a crop of employees, a crop of workers who are so sharp, and they will accelerate your organization, your company, to a great level. You will be able to have redeemed the time that you wasted in 2020, because you'll have sharper people, and it's because you invested in developing them. Finally, as I finish right now, I want to remind you, the particular employees that you have, this is a great opportunity for you to do a check on the employees that you have. Those that you look at and you realize they are your best employees, they have been delivering on the job, please do not let them go home. Stay with them. You might be giving them half a salary, but you will need them after the pandemic. Do not release them. Do not lay them off, because these are assets. You have invested so much in them. You cannot afford to let them go, so that ultimately you start retraining others. Ensure you keep them. Talk to them. Let them understand times are not good, and stick on with them. The little that is within the organization, share it out with them, so that by the time the crisis is over, they will be able to serve you way much better, because you're the leader who stuck on with them. On the other hand, you have an opportunity to release those employees who have not been adding value to your organization. You have a chance right now. You can release them to go. Because even during this time of crisis, they will not add any value to your organization. And so respectfully, because of the human rights, one of the human rights is respect. Every human being deserves to be respected. Respectfully release them. Because if you keep them on, they will increase your overheads, but they're not adding anything to your organization. And so as I wind up today, I want to encourage you, leader, my fellow leader, as you lead through the crisis, do not let fear engulf you. Reinvent yourself. Reinvent yourself. Look around and ask yourself, what can we do differently? And start doing those things differently. And at the end of the pandemic, at the end of the crisis, we will still be talking about your company and about your organization. Personal development, I cannot overemphasize that. Personal development. I'm so grateful that you could give me your ear this evening. And I believe by the end of this global crisis, your company will still be afloat. And God giving us life, we will continue talking to each other. And I'll continue bringing forth the leadership nuggets. Thank you, thank you, thank you.